Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here again from ScaleFreak.com, coming to do a once-over on my 2017 Protoform Canadian On-Road National Run pan car. This is my World GT rubber tire car. This is actually a viewer requested video from Paul Skip. He saw the video online of me racing this thing and said, I'd love for you to put this on the bench and just talk a little bit more about the car itself. So I will always do my best to comply, and I had the car here, so why not? So let's discuss real quick just basically what this class is. World GT is, let me start by telling you, a lot of fun. It is a 10 scale pan car. So normally you're used to seeing the little 12 scales. This one here is the same idea, just blown up a little bit. So it is a 10th scale pan car. First, I'll start with the body itself. I do have the Protoform Ford GT body on it. Probably one of my nicest looking shells that I've ever run, and definitely just a very great design. And I had it painted by D&D Designs, Dan DeGlopper here in the Niagara region, and he did a phenomenal job doing the team livery for all of our F1 and our World GT. Well, basically the entire Scale Freak race division, we all had the same type of design done. So you can see some pictures on the @ScaleFreakRC Instagram account. You'll see all of our cars put together with our team colors. So popping the body off real quick. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I do want to talk about the body just for a moment because I am absolutely in love with the design of this thing. So just like the real Ford GT, you can see here that the arrow goes all the way through. So these are just capped on there and held on with screws. And you can see it goes all the way through like that. What a beautiful design this body was. And yes, of course, I did spray the Tamiya PS55 flat clear on the outside of this thing just to really dull it down. So that's kind of what I had to do. I'll just set that off to the side. Now, the chassis itself, this is the 10 scale pan car. This is the World GT car. And for anybody who just watched my build of the team associated F1 car, same idea, same principles. So first, let's kind of start from the front. So I'm just going to move the body a little bit more. So from the front, of course, if you're racing, you've got to get yourselves a transponder. There are a couple companies that make them. Milapse is the one that you're going to generally want to get. There is MRT transponders, but they're kind of a cloned system. They don't necessarily work with every system, so please check with your track and find out what system they are using, and make sure you get a transponder that will work with that system. Typically, I obviously run it near the front of the car. And depending on what chassis you're made out of, a carbon fiber chassis, no problem, stick it directly to. Aluminum chassis, sometimes there are signal issues, but just talk to the track, talk to the race director, and just kind of make sure. You'll notice the weights on here. These do have a minimum weight requirement on each kit, each class, I should say. And literally, I got to the point that I had to stick a dime to the car just to be able to make weight. I just a little piece of two-sided tape and a dime, and I ended up being 1 gram over my required weight, which is fine because now the joke is my car turns on a dime because it's mounted to the steering rack. Tires on this thing are the CRC rubbers made for the World GT car. I actually use these same tires for my F1 car as well, so it's nice to be able to have that. Now, the steering itself is connected directly to the servo, so just back and forth like that. Now, with a pan car, you dumb the steering rate down. Slow your servo, set your end points. You don't need a lot of steering. These things are so lightweight, they turn almost instantly. And you'll notice the servo saver built onto here. So if I do hit a wall or something like that, this little white unit here, my servo saver, will take the stress instead of transferring it directly into the servo. Here's an interesting thing about pan cars. This took me a little bit to get used to. You see these spacers down here? Those are actually ride height spacers. And where normally with a touring car or a short course truck or something like that, if you're looking to raise the ride height, you're pretty much just looking to maybe make the arms tilt down just to get the chassis off the ground. It's actually the opposite with this. If you're looking to raise the ride height, you need to put space between your arms and your chassis. You're literally going to raise the body itself by, well, correction. You're going to raise the suspension by adding space into here and being able to get the ride height that you need. It's the opposite direction. Instead of making the arms go down, you're literally going to put space in between here to raise and lower the chassis in comparison to the actual rubber. Very confusing when I first started doing it. It probably took me a little while to be able to get it correct, but that's because I was just so used to the other way. Now, suspension on the front is very simple. Just like the F1 kit that you saw, it's just a little tiny spring on the bottom of here, and it's just really to take up some of the bumps. It's not a heavy suspension. It's not really much to deal with. In here, of course, you do see more weights on the side. It's actually to offset the weight of the motor, depending on where it is. Inline battery right down the center. Not all kits will be like this. Some of them will be sideways, some will be here, some will be mounted front and back. Just depends on the kit itself. This one here, I'm not sure if I mentioned it or not. It is a CRC kit, and it's actually not even the newest generation. It's a full generation old. It's not even a car that's meant to be a World GT, but I was in a pinch and I just grabbed something pre-owned and it worked perfect for me. Battery itself is a 1-cell LiPo. The World GT class is a 1-cell class, so 3.7. They in this event they teched you before you went on the track to make sure you were not over voltage. So the battery itself stays in the car. It's bolted down. Really no reason to take it out anyway, but this sucker is strapped directly to the kit itself. And as you can see here, just for space and weight concerns, I actually mounted my receiver directly into the middle. There's also a voltage, kind of a voltage cap here. So that when you do jam on the throttle, it is only a 1-cell. It only has so much kind of output. So there's a small cap on here just to help smooth out the power. Smooth is actually what I want to say about this class. Very smooth. 1-cell. At no point can you hit the throttle and the thing gets all squirrely. It's a very calm class that requires a lot of attention to your driving because it's a bit of a difference in the driving style to be as smooth in the corners as you can. If you like to be a momentum driver, which momentum driver is a person who learns how to take the corners and slow in, fast out of the corner, correct apex, stuff like that, it's a great class to start with. And then of course in here from my electronics, I have a Tiken RS Gen 2. Now this one here is the Tiken Spec. I normally use the RS Gen 2, but this one is a Tiken Spec ESC. With this class, you have to use a 17.5 motor and you have to use Blinky on your speed controller. Blinky basically means no turbo, anything like that. You can adjust the timing of your motor, but you cannot add things like boost and turbo to your speed controller, which is perfect because again, it's just like bang, bang, go. Of course, wires directly into the Generation 3 RPM motor, the 17.5, censored of course. Just like the F1 car, this does have the one shock in the middle that gives you your suspension for your pod. Ride height can also be adjusted by how much preload you throw onto that. The axle on the back, same idea as every other pan car. It's a graphite rod. This one side just kind of fits on and then bolts in. Then you've got your spur gear. This is a ball diff, so you can pull this tire off and tighten and loosen depending on what you need. Now, what's also neat about this CRC kit is ride height in the back can be adjusted with these screws. There's actually, this axle is almost floating. So the pod, you can see the pod in the back, but these 4 screws will actually allow you to shift the axle up and down. So if you need to get a little extra ride height on the back of this pod, put your ride height gauges in, loosen the screws, get everything all centered, and then put it back down again. You can also adjust the width of your axle by shimming it out. This thing will actually slide in and out like this to make sure it's all centered. And then just for the pod's sake, for those of you who maybe didn't watch the other videos, what I mean by the pod is that the rear axle, the motor, all connected to a separate piece in the back, and you can see that that moves independently. There are these friction tubes here that slow its movement from side to side. There are these connecting rods here that make it so that the back stays straight. If you move around, it doesn't move excessively. And of course, you have your body posts and stuff like that. And I mean, that's really it when it comes to a World GT car. This pan car stuff, as simplistic as it is, it does require a lot of work on your setup. There's a lot of old school hints and tricks that you can do. Little things like the fact that they have these little tiny dots in there that you can get these center posts to make sure that your balance is even side to side. There's different things you can do with making sure that the right amount of suspension and stuff like that. Like say, for example, there's a test you can do where you lift the front end and you pay attention to which wheel comes off first, and you have to adjust the opposite corner to adjust that wheel. Some crazy stuff. Maybe one day I'll go over it just to try to help you understand. I have to understand it first. But really, that's what it comes down to. So this won me, I believe it was second place in the B main for the 2017 Protoform Canadian On-Road Nationals. I can very, very confidently say that I think this is one of my most favorite race classes I have ever raced. This pan car stuff is an absolute blast, and the fact that this thing does not get overpowered and you have to concentrate a lot on learning how to drive, I was just absolutely fascinated by it. So what a very, very good kit, what a very great setup, and I hope to see more people picking up on a class like this. And I mean, come on, you throw the 4GT body on, and just like that, you've got yourself an amazing looking car that is an absolute trip to race around the track. And I highly recommend it. One more thing I guess I should mention that I really like about this World GT class, with my F1, of course, with F1 it is an open wheel class, so if you hit the wall too hard, you may snap some parts, you may tear an arm off, you may just jump the wall. With the World GT class, as you can see, the tires are covered by the body. So if you bang somebody else, or if you rub up against a wall or something like that, the body will take it and the tires won't. So I drove this car for a very serious race weekend and did not break a single part. That's not the case with the F1 because I hit a couple things and snapped a bunch of stuff on it, but I felt this class very confident in this class, very protected on this class, and a lot less breakage. So I hope that answers a few of your questions. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them in the comments field down below. I really do like talking about these cars, and if it's a class that I'm in love with, like this one, I do like to support it as much as possible so that I can help out and maybe help you with your decision to get one and help us improve the numbers of that class. So again, this is a CRC 10th scale pan car. They do have an updated chassis, so I would obviously buy the newest one, but this is just one I got in a pinch, of course, powered by Tekin, because I love their stuff. And make sure you get yourself a MyLapse transponder or whatever you use, or whatever your local track uses. So guys, thank you very much for watching the video. Again, questions, put them below. Click on the like, on the subscribe, share it throughout your community. Thanks for watching.